There we are. Hello, everybody up there on Instagram. We're waiting for my Facebook channel to start. Welcome to another edition of Live from My Mother's Basement with yours truly, comedian Mike Marino. Oh, we're having a little bit of a spectrum problem. Oh, there it is. I have an unbelievable, wonderful, special guest on my show tonight. I'm going to say her name and then we're going to get right into it. Wow, see how many people are writing in so fast with all those big, big hearts?
Oh, yeah.
This is Georgia Durante, ladies and gentlemen. I've waited about a year to get Georgia to come on my show. There's a special relationship here. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk all about it. We're going to have some fun. And then we're all going out to dinner because this is my last night here in Los Angeles before I go out on tour tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock in the morning from LAX. Nobody likes LAX. It's a horrible place. But we're going to go out to dinner, and guess what we're going to have? We're going to have some Italian food because this is Italian American Heritage Month. But then again, I probably would have went for Italian food anyway because we're Italian.
Always Italian.
Georgia, say hello to everybody. This is Georgia Durante.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming to my mother's basement. Obviously, it's not my mother's basement in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. This is our offshoot basement. It's called an apartment here in North Hollywood, California. But Georgia doesn't live too far from here. We're going to talk about where she lives, how you could visit where she lives, how you could rent where she lives. And she's also got a security guard who's with us tonight. And she brought a couple of baseball bats.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
thanks. We're going to go all the way back with Georgia because she's got a long story, an incredible history with the mob, Hollywood, New York, and a lot of different things. So, where exactly were you born?
Rochester, New York.
Rochester, New York. Now, I know we had this conversation before because I was lucky enough to perform in Rochester, New York. And I did a performance in the Kodak Theater, which was the most amazing thing because the area where the Kodak Theater is, I guess back in the day, was because of Kodak.
Yeah, that's recently that you were there, Rick, because we never
Yeah.
had that theater when I was living there.
It's actually inside where they make, I guess, film back in the day.
Yeah.
So tell us about growing up in Rochester and tell us about that Kodak place because everybody was talking about that city thrived because of Kodak.
Oh yeah, that Xerox. But I started modeling for Kodak when I was 12. And by the time I was 17, I was considered the most photographed girl in the country because of Kodak.
All right, so stop there. You know, I know you want to just dive right in and keep on going, but there's a lot of little tentacles that are attached to this. I started a modeling career in Rochester, which is far from Manhattan. A lot of people think Rochester, New York is New York. It's not.
Right.
It's upstate New York. They even have a different accent. She sounds different than New Yorkers. They sound like they're from Chicago. There was this industry, and I only knew because I saw it. I don't really know the actual history. I always thought Kodak was Asian, but it's not. It's American.
Yeah.
Well, because when everybody back in the day was thinking film, you thought, you know, chick, chick, click, click, camera, China.
No, what was the company that came in after Kodak? They came in with was it the Polaroid?
Fuji?
Fuji.
Film.
Yeah, that's why you probably thought it was Asian. But when I first came to California, I had all this Kodak stuff in my book, and I went on the audition for Fujifilm. So when I went to show my portfolio, I said, oh, I got all these Kodak ads in there, right? So anyway, I think I lied about my age, and I had my 7-year-old daughter with me, and they asked me, well, I kept saying, oh, well, that's very old. That's about 15 years old. And the guy said, well, how old are you? And then I said, oh, I'm only 26, but I started really young. And so anyway, my daughter says, Mommy, you're not 26, you're 30.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, she ended up getting the job they needed a kid. She ended up getting the job and I didn't. So anyway, we were still able to eat steak that night.
It's just amazing that the modeling business, of course, stemming from the camera business and the film business, has you at 17. How did that actually happen? Did you go on an audition? Who did you meet? Were you walking down the street? Did you got into the modeling business? You set out to be a model?
No, I didn't set out to be a model.
You know,
I was
just
a
a little
tomboy. I was a tomboy. I didn't want anything to do with it. My mother made me. My mother took me to this testing thing, and
All right, just before we started talking, I actually said about how there are the showbiz moms that push their kids into it. So you had a showbiz mom?
no, she didn't. She just got me in the door, and then she went away. Then I just took it upon myself to do what I needed to
Because
do.
you liked it.
No, because I was proving a point. The photographer told me, he said, honey, after he started filming me, he said, are you taking any secretarial courses in school? And I said, well, I plan to. He says, good, because I think you should be a secretary. I don't think you're going to make it as a model. Somebody told me I couldn't do something, then I had to prove them wrong.
That's an Italian person from Rochester. Don't tell me I don't know what to do. I'll tell you how to do it. All right, so 17 is at the age where you got the contract or a deal with Kodak?
I started working for them when I was 12, so they knew me very well by the time there was only like 5 really good models in Rochester, and they used us always, you know. So they tested me for the Summer Girl poster, which was a life-size poster that was the first time they ever used a bikini, and they were freaking out because Kodak was such a conservative.
See, that's such a
company,
great
right?
thing. I know you maybe you don't want to date yourself, but what year are we talking about that the bikini became okay for a model?
Yeah, it was 1969, but the bikinis then came up to your waist, you know. So, so Sybil Shepherd ended up doing it the year after me,
All right.
and they called me in and said, you gotta help us, you gotta help us. I had to pose her because she was so awkward. She had these big shoulders and she didn't know how to turn them, and it was really weird. But
So you came in and became like a consultant to another model.
yeah.
So you're the first model to wear a bikini
Yep.
in photographs.
For the Summer Girl. Yeah, it was always a one-piece bathing suit, and they were so freaked out that when it came out, they had aired out my belly button.
Huh?
They aired out the belly button.
Aired it out?
Yeah, well, they
Oh.
airbrushed it.
There's another term that people don't use anymore. Wait a minute. I remember this term. They would etch things out, scratch it out. There's another term for it. You said aired it out.
Airbrushed.
Airbrush. There was another term, etching it was called. They could actually scratch stuff out of a picture when they went into the dark room. I guess they don't even have a dark room anymore.
No.
They don't develop film anymore.
No.
There's no such thing as Kodachrome
Sad.
anymore, which I think Kodachrome started in Rochester as well. So they took out your belly button?
Yes.
Why?
Because they I don't know, they were just so conservative. They thought it was going to insult people or something. I don't know.
Isn't it crazy how the world changes, then maybe makes a full circle and starts again? But could you imagine today you see a picture of a girl in a bikini and she doesn't have a belly button? People are going to think, oh, well, maybe that's the new thing. You just get rid of it. She might have had some plastic surgery. Maybe she had a tummy tuck and tucked it too tight and the belly button popped. You got a pop belly button. So when you saw the picture of you without a belly button, did you kind of be like, wow, hey, come on now?
Well, I didn't even notice it until somebody mentioned it years later. You know, those you don't have a belly button, and I never even noticed it.
Do you have these pictures still? I mean,
I do.
Are they on the internet?
Yeah.
Great. So we're going to get everybody to go to the website where you could see a belly buttonless Georgia Durante and the first time ever bikini modeling Kodak. Were you holding a camera?
Yep. Film. I think I was holding the film.
Holding the film?
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing? Now, the reason why I was saying before, when I had gone to Rochester, I was just in amazement because the Kodak place that made the film just looked like a museum. And they had a cafeteria where the employees used to go to eat. And it's all, not condemned, but closed because they don't make film anymore.
Were you the one on State Street?
Well, I don't
Kodak
know. It
has-
was a big, big, big building. The theater held 3,000 people. And some guy who was working there was telling me that Rochester was known for Kodak because Kodak was employing, what, 70% of the people?
Almost the entire city was employed by Kodak.
That's unbelievable. Could you imagine an entire city?
And
being
to get a
employed?
job at Kodak in the early days, if you were Italian, you had to change your name.
Oh, well, there you go. Here comes some great moments in history that affected the Italian people that nobody wants to say nice things about Christopher Columbus these days. But you couldn't get a job working for Kodak unless your name wasn't Marino. It was a Marino, what?
Just Marine.
Just Marine. Yeah, I'm Marine. I lost the O somewhere.
Yeah.
The O got etched out like a belly button.
But if still, when
Come on,
you
that was hilarious.
when you go to Rochester and you open up the phone book, everybody's name ends in a vowel. They're all Italian.
Oh, well, now, yeah.
I
mean,
didn't
that's-
know anybody who wasn't Italian
there's a
until
lot
I
of
was
it.
17.
That's Rochester, New York, Buffalo, New York, Syracuse, New York, Utica, New York. It's beautiful up there, unless you're going to go in the winter.
When I was living in Manhattan, I would fly home on the weekends for
Fly?
for $10 standby.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
And we were flying into Rochester, and the pilot comes on the loudspeaker and he says, "We are now landing in Rochester. Please set back your watches 100 years."
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah,
never
because
forgot
it
that.
does seem like you go back in time. People are nice to each other. There's great restaurants. But February, March, when the snow hits, boy, is it hard to get around. Could you imagine getting on a plane for $10 and you go standby, and if you took your shoes off, somebody would yell at you for taking off your shoes. Now you got to keep your shoes on. Or no, you got to take your shoes off, put them in the tray, put a mask on, take the mask off, take a test. It's just unbelievable. And then slowly but surely, what happens? Kodak goes out of business.
That just blows my mind. Such a big company like that, they just fell short when videotape.
Well, it's not so much that. I mean, they were the leader in film. There was Kodachrome, and then that became the Instamatic camera, and then VHS. But now we all have cell phones, and no one needs a camera anymore. You can take a picture with your cell phone. You can actually call somebody and say, "Hey, I'm taking a picture of you while I'm talking to you." So that whole thing went out. I mean, if you remember, Paul Simon even wrote a song about Kodachrome.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Yes.
And I think that was the 70s. Don't take that Kodachrome away. Now, I don't know how it goes, but
You're
you remember.
aging me.
But that something. Mama don't need that Kodachrome. Mama, somebody, get the hell away from me with the Kodachrome.
Okay, I got to tell you a funny story.
Sure, please. This is a comedy show. Tell me a comedy story.
When my book first came out, we launched it in Rochester, and the photographer who had taken that life-size picture of me that was in all the camera stores and drugstores all over the world, he brought it and he set it next to me during my signing. And this girl came up after waiting in line for about an hour, and she finally gets to the front. She looks at the picture and she says, "I remember that." She was like 20 years old. I said, "Honey," I said, "you weren't even born when we took this picture." And she got really insulted, and she said, "But I remember." She said, my brother had an antique store, and he had one in there."
Oh, all right then.
So now I'm an antique.
Hey, listen. If you have that poster somewhere in your life, or it is in an antique store, like getting a Life magazine or any magazine from the 60s or 70s, that must be an unbelievable feeling because you achieved the goal that millions of people couldn't.
You know what? It's so funny. There's a new movie coming out that Steven Spielberg is doing. Do you know the name
No.
of it? And they just called me and they want to use that poster in one of the scenes. So they just paid me to use it.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I know.
She got paid for a belly buttonless photograph that was taken with Kodachrome. Could I have one of these posters? You know I'm a kind person and I won't go there, but what is it like knowing that you're on a poster that's risque for the time?
For the time.
First one in a bikini, and hundreds of men, women, are looking at this poster from their bedroom. I mean, am I getting the point across?
When
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
when that poster came out.
You have them?
You know,
You
we
have
did-
these posters?
Oh yeah.
All right.
They do it like a year in advance, right? So when it came out, by the time it came out, I was 9 months pregnant.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I would stand next to it. I'd see it in the store, and I'd say, "This is me."
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
Sure.
Did
yeah.
you have a signing? Hey, it's me, really, before the kid. I had a belly button. Do you have a lot of these posters?
No, I just have one.
Just one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a place to find it on the internet. Did you ever look?
Oh yeah, I did. I tried to get one, and it was like $5,500 to.
You're kidding.
Yeah, to buy that poster. And it's like, I didn't think that was worth it.
Well, if you have one, you could
Yeah.
probably go to a Kinko's and make many, right?
Well, it's a big cardboard cutout.
Look, if I can make this ugly sign, you can make anything you want at a reproduction house. So I think she should reproduce some of these pictures, and everybody out there could purchase them, and you could use my promo code Marino and get yourself 2% off. If you get 5% off, you could see the belly button. We'll put it back in.
Yeah. Well,
All right, so let's go now. 17 years old, she's modeling. You get a little older. Did you start pursuing a career as an actress in New York? No, it wasn't your thing?
No, when I got to New York, I kind of got involved with the darker side.
And that's before you became a stunt driver?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well, do you mind if we indulge here? Okay, so Georgia, Italian, from Rochester, New York, hot, gorgeous model. She's making some great money working for Kodak. She's the first person in the world to wear a bikini in an ad for the Kodak, right?
The Kodak.
The Kodak. But then you went on to model for cigarettes, or is that after the dark side?
No, that's after or during the dark side.
It all comes, okay. So 17, you said that you were pregnant when the ad came out. How old were you when you were with your first child?
I was 19.
19.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and find out what she means by the dark side. Tell everybody.
Well, that's kind of what my book is about. I really wasn't planning on writing a book. It was just, I was doing it for therapy. And
Is that right?
all the stuff started coming out. And so,
It's a hard thing to start.
yeah. Well,
Georgia has a book. We're going to talk about the book, but ladies and gentlemen, it's called The Company She Keeps. It just kind of sets you up in what kind of people she met that took her down the dark side. I make a lot of jokes about being connected to the mob. I make jokes about if the mob ran the country. It's just a joke. I'm really disconnected in my brain, and that's how I come up with these jokes. But Georgia actually got involved with some of the people who were seriously on the connected side at a very young age. Care to take that
well,
stroll?
it all started when I was dating a guy that owned an after-hour club in Manhattan. And I was in the bar one night, and some guy 5 feet away from me pulled out a gun and shot the guy next to him. And he falls to the ground. Everybody scatters, and Frankie said, "Georgie girl, here's the keys. Get the car, pull it up." So I ran down 2 flights of stairs, got in the car, And they got his body down 2 flights of stairs, and they threw him in the back seat. Now I'm in the driver's seat, and I take off, and I just knew I had to get there. But when I saw a cop, I knew I had to slow down. Well, we got him to the hospital. They pulled his body out of the car, left him on the sidewalk, beeped the horn, and we took off. All they talked about was, man, Georgie girl, can you drive a car, right? They could care whether this guy lived or died. But he did live, but they got him like 3 months later. They killed him anyway. But anyway.
It's kind of funny how she just dismisses it. He lived. Man, they got him getting 3 months ago. But that's not the point. I think one of the craziest things is to hear that they dropped him off in front of the hospital. Like they did him a favor. Look, we're not going to take you in. We're not filling out any papers, but you're here. Good luck. So go ahead.
So, like about a month later, and that's all they talked about is how I drove the car. They used to call me Georgie girl.
Georgia girl.
Georgie girl. And so I go back to Rochester, and just for a weekend, and I run into Sammy G, who was the godfather of that whole area. And he sees me, he says, Georgie, you gotta do me a favor. And I said, sure, Sammy, what do you want me to do? And he said, you gotta deliver a message for me. He says, if anybody finds out about this, they're gonna find my body in the Genesee River. He says, I can't trust anybody. I said, okay, what do you want me to do? So he shows up the next day with an envelope, and I fly back to New York, and there's this black limousine waiting for me at the airport. And they drive me into Brooklyn, and there's a guy in the car, in the limo with me, and he ushers me to the back room. There's 4 guys sitting there, and I'm introduced as Georgie girl. So this one guy raises his eyebrow, and he says, like he recognized the name, which he did because they had talked about how I drove the car. So anyway, I hand him the note, and he opens it, and he looks at me, and he says, you tell Mr. Gingell he's going to have to meet with me in person. And I said, hey, I'm just the messenger. I have no idea what's in there. So now I'm being escorted out of the restaurant, and the guy says to me, the old man really liked you. Now I'm like, what, 18? I said, which old man? They were all old, right? it turned out to be Carlo Gambino.
Oh, okay.
So they must have thought if Sammy could trust me with whatever was in that message, they knew I could drive. I was appearing on covers of magazines. Who was going to suspect me? I was the perfect person for them to use, right?
Right.
And it started out with me, picking up packages and delivery. I had no idea it was in these packages, but I did find out later there were millions of dollars in these packages, and I was like dropping this money off to these guys in suits at JFK Airport who turned out to be the CIA, who was laundering money for the mob. And I just started getting in pretty deep until they started asking me to do what they called pickups. And I assumed what they were doing was breaking legs or do whatever, to get the vig. And I would wait around the corner. Well, one day they came out with their guns out and flung open the doors and said, step on it. And then I heard the sirens in the background. And I got away. And it was probably the worst thing I could have done, because then they wanted to use me all the time, and I realized I was getting in really deep, So, anyway, that's what the book's about.
So this is kind of a way that the mob sucks you in back in the day. Who knows what it's like now? But you do a favor, and before you know it, you do another favor, and before you know it, they do you a favor, and the favors go back and forth, and now you're in with the and you can't get out because they're going to threaten you eventually if you say, I don't want to do this. And I'm sure we're going to get to that part. So she became a getaway driver or a delivery driver, but when she was delivering, all of a sudden they noticed she could drive really, really fast or good, and she's unassuming that this gorgeous woman is driving God knows what around the country in envelopes, and for who. But who was the guy that you were dating at the time, and what was his affiliation? Can't talk about that part?
I can't talk about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was the owner of this club. Well, it's in the book. I mean, I call him Frankie C, but I don't really
read the book.
Yeah.
So from 18 to how old before you became in a different life? Like, when did you leave everybody and became a stunt driver?
Well, when I came to California, I was actually running from the mob, and I couldn't really model because they'd figure out where I was, and I was living in my car, and
Oh no.
yes, and I found a guy that I used to model with, and he let me stay in his apartment. He had a little studio apartment in Brentwood until I could figure out what I was going to do, and I had $7 in my pocket. And I'm watching TV at his place every day, and then I began to realize that every time there was a commercial, it was a car commercial. And then they were, when I looked at it, you could never see the driver. I said, that's perfect, I could do that, right? And so my friend who was an actor would tell me where they were shooting commercials, and I would show up on the set, and I would bug these directors, and until one of them got so sick of seeing me, he says, all right, he said, show up on Tuesday, we'll see what you can do. And I showed up on Tuesday, I showed him what I could do, and I guess he was impressed, and he told the next director, and the next guy, and the next guy. Before I knew it, I was turning down work, I couldn't do it all. There was such a need for women, and there were not any women doing it. And they were putting wigs on guys back then.
So you become a stunt driver in the movie business.
Yeah.
What a career change from running away from the boys back east to coming out to California. You know, there are so many people on the East Coast that actually, when they want to get out of the mob, have to leave the state. And a lot of people come to California, Florida, maybe even in the Midwest, just to get away with it, get away from it, because technically there is no way to get away from it once you're in. Once you're in, you're in. And then I have some friends that had to do the same thing, mostly female, of course, because they were married to it. And when they wanted out, there was only one way to get out, and that's disappear completely. So what do you think when you watch movies like, TV shows like Mob Wives, or I Was Married to a Mobster, you know, how they indulge in probably making it bigger than what it might have been?
Yeah, I kind of was never like a mob wife. I was more like one of the guys actually.
Right.
But when I see those, what are they called? Real
mob wives.
Reality
Yeah,
shows.
reality show.
It's like bull.
Bull.
When The Sopranos came out, which was kind of funny, I was dating the chief of the strike force for organized crime. So they wanted
Could you mention his name or no?
Yeah, his name was Jim Henderson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Henderson.
Jim Henderson, yep. No vowels on his name. But anyway.
Here in California?
Yeah, he was in Chicago. He in Los Angeles, in the strike force. In fact, they called him the mob buster.
Is that right?
Because he did over 100 mob cases where Carlo Marcello, he put away, all of them.
Oh, wow.
Right?
He's probably a very wanted man.
Oh, well.
I bet you he has a couple of books out.
He actually did Dominic Brooklier, who was a mob guy here in Los Angeles, and he was prosecuting him.
Right.
And his son was a lawyer who was defending his father. Well, Jim ended up winning the case and put him in prison. In fact, he died in prison. But him and the son ended up being really good friends, and Jim was writing a book called The Law Between Us, which was a great book.
Wow, it's a great title, The
Yeah.
Law Between Us.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so you drive in the stunt car, you start making a living, then what happens? Well, because you eventually go over to this enchanted manor.
Yeah, well, okay, so what happened?
What could we cut out, or what could we get to? Because I'm going to get to the book. I'm looking at all these incredible pictures. Georgia has a great book out, and it's purchasable. We're going to talk about where you can get it. But I'm trying to build up from where she came from to where she is today, and how they're going to be making a movie about this young lady and her life, and hopefully I could get to play Mr. Henderson.
You actually could.
I could be Mr.
You know
Henderson.
what? If I show you a picture of him, you look a lot
Yes.
like him.
See? I know where to
Wow.
go.
Wow.
It's not like I'm going to be playing one of the Gambinos. I'll be the guy who owned Kodak Films. You know what? Just to go back, I don't know how many people actually know this, and I only learned it because I was in Rochester. But the guy who owned Kodak Films, I guess, was so rich, and he didn't want to live any longer, supposedly. This is what they told me.
George Eastman?
I guess.
And he committed suicide?
He committed suicide in a helicopter. That's what I heard. He crashed his helicopter.
I don't remember that.
He committed suicide. Could you imagine living such an incredible life? You say to yourself, yeah, I've had enough. I think I'll go now.
Did you go to the George Eastman Museum?
I went to the museum, I went to the Kodak place, and I looked at this neighborhood that was just condemned. And it was the saddest thing because you could imagine what it would have been like when it all first started. And they had that big, big brick tower and all these wonderful restaurants that were just gone.
See,
And it's sad.
If I was there when you were there, I could have taken you to all the mob joints. And,
Yeah. I would love to go to the mob joints. We all have an affection for reading, watching. The Many Saints of Newark came out, which is the prequel to The Sopranos. I have not seen it. It's got mixed reviews. Did you see it?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Many Saints of Newark?
Yes, I did.
And?
That was okay.
Only okay?
Yeah. It was interesting and it
All
kept
right.
your attention.
Well, let's get to the
Yeah.
book. Children, marriage, life changes. When did you write the book?
I wrote the book and started writing it in 93. And it came out in 98.
Oh, okay.
And the first publisher who saw it within
Hot?
23 hours bought it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I really didn't have to go through what most people do.
I don't even know what most people do to sell a book.
Oh, yeah, it's something else.
Here's the book, ladies and gentlemen. It's called The Company She Keeps. It looks really, really fantastic. It's a great cover. There's Georgia when she was a little younger.
Yeah.
She has a belly button in this picture. And the back looks like this. Now, there's incredible pictures in here. Look at you with the gun. Like, where did you even take this picture to be shot for cover? This couldn't have been for the cover of the book. You look like you didn't even know you were going to write a book yet.
That was a Kodak photographer
All right.
who we just took pictures for no reason at all, and that was one of the outfits that I had on for that particular shot.
Isn't that great? It's a fantastic picture. And we mentioned Sidney Sheldon, who's no longer with us. And he wrote something really great. Georgia Durante has written a gripping, fast-paced insider's look at the underworld she knew only too well. Breathtakingly remarkable by Cindy Sheldon. If you remember Cindy Sheldon, I guess he used to, what was he, a movie review person and a book review person.
He wrote, 100 books, and
Yeah.
they made movies
By
out of all
Sidney
his
Sheldon,
books.
yeah. Good gosh. He was a friend of yours?
Yeah, he was kind of reading my early drafts and telling me, what he thought I should change in it. And he says, you know what you ought to do? He says, just, start from the beginning. Start from your childhood. He said, get the reader to know you and love you. So when they get to these parts, they'll forgive you.
That's what we're doing right now. We're starting from when she was a model. We went into the big, big picture with no belly button. Then we went into the behind the scenes of delivering money. And now we're going to get to the book. And then we're going to forgive her for everything. And then we're going to go have some food. You know so many stars. You know so many people. Tell us, how did you even meet me? How did we meet?
I think through Dina Martin.
All right, let's tell everybody. Dean Martin has a daughter. Well, he has a lot of kids. Had a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is Dina Martin. And Dina Martin sings. I met Dina Martin when we were entertaining at the Feast of San Gennaro many years ago. And we've remained friends all this time. Her and her husband John are just fantastic people. And I also know that they were staying at your house. But how did we connect?
I think it was when we were doing the, is it sauce or is it Yeah, remember? I think you came to the
Well,
house to do sauce and
gravy.
or gravy. Wasn't that it?
Something like that, because we also have another friend in common, Vinny Ciceri, and I just can't think of how we all met. But we have a large amount of friends in common, and our friends are all big stars from back in the day up till today. And sadly, because we're all getting older,
They're
some of
gone.
those friends are not around anymore. But I know that you're good friends with Joe Hill. And I want to mention that because Joe's brother is Henry Hill, who they wrote Goodfellas around, played by Ray Liotta. So how do you actually know Joe?
Through Henry.
Oh, there you go. Okay, then here's a better question. How do you know Henry Hill? How do you know Henry?
Well, I go back to, New York, the Copacabana,
Yeah.
and all that with Henry. And then, when he went into the witness protection program, he used to come over every Thursday and cook for me because he was writing a cookbook.
Right.
And the name of the book was Cooking on the Run. And so if I liked what he made, then that recipe would go in the cookbook. So my book had just come out, and he said, I gotta do the Howard Stern show tonight. He said, you want to do it with me? And I said, well, sure, I'll sell some books. I said, but Henry, I said, why are you putting yourself out there? You're gonna get killed, right? And so anyway, that's when I was dating Jim Henderson. So anyway, we go to, he falls asleep on the couch. I wake him up at 3 o'clock when we're ready to do the show. I pour him some coffee, and then he pours it down the drain and puts straight vodka in it. And I didn't know he did that. So now he's in the kitchen on the phone with Howard, and I'm in my office, and Jim is in the bedroom listening to it live on the radio. And Howard's saying, Henry, what are you doing? He says, I'm over here with the prosecutor. He's all drunk, I had no idea. And he says, what are you doing with the prosecutor? He says, well, I'm not really here with the prosecutor. I was just over here with Georgia Durante's house. Every mob guy in the country know where I live, right?
Holy crap.
So Jim runs out of the bedroom, hangs up the phone. He says, come on, Henry, I got to get you out of here. And I says, great, what do I got to do? He says, go up to the secret room until I call you, right? Oh, my God. Then Jim drops him off at the hospital because he had an appointment there the next day. He ends up running away with some guy's briefcase and trying to make it out of the hospital. Ends up in jail, calls me collect and said, you think Jim can get me out of here? Right? I said, Henry, what did you do? Right? And Jim, he says, oh my God. Jim got him out, and he was under a different name, and he got him out, and he said, you're friends. He says, please, don't ask me to do any more favors for your friends.
Here we are talking about the real life people who were written about and portrayed in Goodfellas. And one of the greatest things for me is because I've been doing stand-up for so long now that I'm meeting the cast of Goodfellas now that they're older. Mm-hmm. And I did meet Henry Hill a long time ago when he wanted to do personal appearances and have an opening act, which would have been me. And so she actually knows this man for real. And of course, Henry Hill is the character in Goodfellas played by Ray Liotta. So it's pretty wild, isn't it? And she's also good friends with Joe Hill, which is Henry Hill's brother, who I remember meeting at your house many times. He's a great cook and he's a great guy. And when he told me he was Henry Hill's brother, I'm like, they didn't even give you a role in the movie. They didn't even mention you. What happened?
Yeah.
You wonder how that happened. So Henry Hill is no longer with us. A lot of the guys from back in that time aren't with us at all. But I want to show everybody a picture. I see your belly button in this picture, but this is Georgia in one of the Kodak ads. Doesn't it look great? That looks great. And I like seeing all these pictures of you being married, a couple of the gangsters, the mobsters back in the day, and all the celebrity friends that you have. There was one I wanted to, oh yeah. Now, you didn't mention the cigarettes. She modeled for a lot of cigarette companies. I don't even remember the names of these companies. I think they came and went, but there's pictures of Georgia with the Moore cigarettes, the menthol. I only remember Marlboro and the Marlboro Man.
You don't?
I do.
Oh,
I only remember
say.
Marlboro and the Marlboro Man. But then there was, what's the other cigarette that you had mentioned? And then the German
Kent.
cigarette, Kent cigarettes.
Yeah.
These are like cigarettes that I don't think anybody even knows about anymore. And there's tons of pictures with you with so many different high-profile celebrities.
That's Jim Henderson.
Jim Henderson, yes, I could play him.
Yeah, you could.
He got killed? What happened? Who was
He
killed in a plane
He
crash?
died last year.
Oh,
No, that's Dennis. No, he got killed in a plane
Dennis
crash.
Prager.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jim Henderson. I don't have a picture of Jim in there.
There's pictures of you in your helmet and in your speeding car and your raceway. There's a lot of pictures of you when you got married. Here's one of my favorite pictures in the book because I'm a big fan of Cindy Crawford. So I guess you were modeling with Cindy Crawford back in the day too. Look at that.
I was doubling her for a Pepsi
Oh.
commercial.
Wow, you're just as gorgeous as Cindy Crawford. And you doubled her?
Yeah.
No kidding.
That's it.
Why is there a stunt double for modeling?
It's not modeling. I drove the Ferrari in the
Oh.
Pepsi commercial with two kids on a bike that they play every year in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Wow. And here's a picture of a Ferrari, and it's upside down. Bugle Boy jeans commercial, early 1990s. Georgia is trapped inside the car. So tell us what happened.
Oh my gosh, and that's why I ended up writing the book. And I was doing this Bugle
Because
Boy
whenever you
jeans-
crash your car, you got to come out with a book.
No, I was just like, I was summer sawing towards a 300-foot drop off into the ocean. And all I thought about as I was summer sawing to my death was, oh my God, I'm wrecking a $250,000 car. Never once did I think, about
gonna
my
die.
life or my kids or anything. And I just thought that was so odd that when I got back from location, I went to see a therapist, and the therapist suggested that I get a journal and write in it for 20 minutes a day, which I did. And then I started adding dialogue, and I said, oh my God, I think I'm writing a book here. And that's how the book happened.
Why were you crashing a Lamborghini? Like, what happened?
Well, if you remember the commercial, it was like in the early 90s. It was a guy in a Jeep, and I catch up to him in the Ferrari and say, but I'm doubling the girl. Excuse me, are those Bugle Boy jeans you're wearing?
Yeah.
And he says, why, yes, they are. And then I do a 180 and go back the other way. But we were working up in Bodega Bay, and the road was real narrow, and the back tire caught the soft shoulder, and it was a vintage car, there was nothing.
Yeah.
We really couldn't bring it back, and it just flipped and went over the embankment, and that's what happened.
So what happened to you?
Actually, there were so many things that saved my life. I was wearing this big thick wig that was, so I looked like the actress. So all the glass got embedded into the wig instead of my head. The gas in the car was like, they just filled the tank, and if it had been lower, it would have blown up.
Right.
And I was like stuck under there, and the crew got down there and they got the car off of me, but I kept hearing this, like the car was gonna blow up.
Yeah.
And I get on the radio, I find the radio around it, and I said, get me out of here. And they did.
Wow.
Yeah.
How fast did they get you out? And did you have to go to the hospital? But you were all
Well,
right.
yeah, they took me to the hospital, but I was really fine. There was nothing wrong with me.
Wow.
We got another Ferrari the next day and did the same.
I remember those commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Are those Bugle Boy jeans you're wearing? Well, yes, they are. Yeah. I don't even know if they could do a commercial like that. Those Bugle Boy jeans? Who's asking?
Sure.
Let's tell everybody where they can get this incredible book.
They can go to my website. They can just.
We want everybody to go to the website because you're going to find a lot of different information on George's website, not only about the book, but where her life went from that to where you are now, and how we've been making a TV series called Make America Italian Again at a location here in North Hollywood.
No, it's really Valley Village.
Valley Village, which is better than this area. And the place is called the Enchanted Manor. You tell us about the Enchanted Manor. This is my mug, the Enchanted Manor. I also have a mug that says the company she keeps. Tell us about the Enchanted Manor now.
The Enchanted Manor is my house. I've been remodeling this house for 35, 40 years. It just hasn't stopped. I call it the house that Chevy built. You know?
This house is so gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen, and she rents it out for people who want to have a private party, private event, weddings, and you name the entertainment, and she'll provide it for you, provided that you do the right thing at this beautiful house. And she also rents it out for movies and television projects, music videos. It is just unbelievable. And if you watch my web series, Make America Italian Again, you'll see a lot of the scenes take place in and around the house. And you could find out more about the Enchanted Manor by, what's the website for that?
It's
The same?
EnchantedManorEvents.com.
EnchantedManorEvents.com. Folks, you just got to go take a look, because you could also spend the weekend there. It's got a beautiful little, how many? One back house? Two?
Well, I got a playhouse for kids, a $60,000 playhouse.
The most expensive dollhouse for children you've ever seen in your life. And if you look closely, there's a guy in there who makes pizza. There's a beatdown going on in there. Make sure you watch the show.
Really?
So two websites, one for the book and one for the Enchanted Manor.
Well, the book is the title of the book, the company she
Yeah,
keeps.
the company
.com.
she keeps.
Yeah.
You know, Georgia came over here tonight with a baseball bat. I have baseball bats all around my house. When I was a kid, people said to me, well, my dad said to me, listen, always have a baseball bat in your car, because you never know when something's going to go down. You might need to protect yourself. So you wrap the top part with some nice black tape, like this is called electrical tape. Nice, you get a good grip on that. You don't even need any of the white salts. And you grab it like this, and you say to somebody, look, one of us is going to get hurt, and I got the bat. Take your pick. All right? So Georgia came over with a bat today, just to make sure she was protected in the neighborhood. Why don't you show us your beautiful baseball bat and tell us your story about the bat.
It's a pink baseball
It's a pink baseball bat,
Yeah.
which is twice as powerful, because you're going to be really embarrassed by getting hit in the head with a pink bat and not a regular brown one.
And it's a Louisville Slugger.
Mm-hmm. And it says at the top something really cool.
Oh, it
Genuine
says Georgia Durante, the stunt lady.
stunt lady. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. It just came in handy one night.
See how casual she is? Just came in handy one night. Just the one night.
I found out that this guy was trying to sell my daughter, this was years ago, drugs. And I had warned him that he'd better not ever do that. He was going to have a problem with me. Well, I found out that he was doing it, and I went over to his house, and I grabbed my pink baseball bat and got to his door and started slamming on the door with the baseball bat, and he came to this little window in the door, and he was scared. He was so scared. He said, I didn't do anything. I said, open the door. He wouldn't open the door. I said, open this door now. He wouldn't do it. So I went all the way around the house with my pink baseball bat, and I busted every single window. I couldn't get to the top floor, but everything all around. Came back, and I said, this time, it's just a baseball bat. And it's your windows. Next time it's going to be your head. You stay away from my daughter. Don't ever, ever sell her drugs. The next day, a couple of days later, my daughter says, Mom, what'd you do? She said, nobody will sell me any drugs. I said, watch out for the mob, Mom. That's what they ended up calling me, the mob mom. Don't sell her any drugs. Mom will come after you.
You know, the old ways are the best ways. You got to take care of things yourself sometimes. You know, sometimes you got to take matters into your own hands. Discipline your kids the right way. This way, when they grow up, They'll know how to discipline the situations that they need to discipline. We're going to take in some questions right now for Georgia. I know there's a lot of people who have some questions, and then we're going to say goodnight and we're going to go get something to eat. So right now, tell everybody just one more time where to get this beautiful book, Georgia.
thecompanySheKeeps.com, and if you get it there, I can sign it for you and personalize it and send it out.
All right. thecompanySheKeeps.com. Log on, grab yourself a book, and when you're on the internet, stop by the Enchanted Manor and take a look around. It's beautiful. You might want to go on vacation or throw a party, especially if you're in the Hollywood area or the Los Angeles area. So let's say hello to Ann Satphire. Wow, what an interesting life. Movie material. Well, yes, in fact, we forgot that. Georgia has signed a couple of deals where they're supposed to make this book into a feature film. And who, remember you telling me, who was supposed to play the role of you?
Well,
You can't say it? Can you say it? I could say it?
You could say it.
Charlize Theron.
Oh,
Wouldn't that be
Charlize.
cool?
Well, she's getting too old now. You gotta play me when I'm like 19.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, I don't know who's on the scene happening right now, but maybe that'll happen.
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie, if you're watching, come on the podcast, live from my mother's basement. We serve macaroni and baseball bats. Gina Marie, it does look like something that would be a great fairy tale. Renata Kanakopa would love to read the book and see the movie. Renata, you can go get that book right on the internet that we were just talking about. George is a badass. Yes, she is a badass, and you just told her right here. That's Gina Marie from Long Island. Don't mess with a mama who and her kid.
That's true.
All right.
That's true.
Any other questions while we're sitting here? Because we're getting hungry and we got to get going. Nick Aquino, it's nice to see you. Thank you so much for writing in and saying hello. Can't wait to see the movie. Wow. Okay, great.
What did he say about Jim Henderson? Wait, where was that? Something about Jim Henderson.
Can't wait to see the movie and Mike as Jim Henderson.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for writing in. Hello, Lori Sternberg. Hello, Ann Satphire, Gina Marie. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Rick Quarantano. Robert Catalano. How you doing, buddy? Regina's Pizza, Akron, Ohio. One of the greatest sponsors. We're going to see you on the internet. Or maybe I'll see you at Caroline's when you come to New York City with me and Joe Gorga on October 27th. Hi, Ingrid. How are you? The belly button is a stomach nipple. The belly button is a stomach nipple.
Well, they
Belly button
actually
is
did
sexy.
end up putting that belly button back in after.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the next series that they did, they ended up putting it in again.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I have it both ways.
All right. Well, hey, you got to have it both ways these days because the world is out of control and people are getting really, really nuts. Hey, listen, folks, we got to get going. Listen, during Italian American Heritage Month, my saying is the best. Make America Italian again. In fact, if you go on my website and you watch Make America Italian Again at MikeMarino.net, you're going to see George's house, the Enchanted Manor, which we are so happy and grateful for being part of and getting to use. And we're going to keep on doing it. And if you guys think you could be on this show, all you have to do is write to our producer. Her name is Tatiana Blueshell at MikeMarinoEntertainment@gmail.com and tell Tatiana why you think you would be a great addition to this show. Keep on watching everything we do at MikeMarino.net. Uh-oh, one more question before we go. Don't mess with Mama. All right, yes, we know we're not going to mess with Mama. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to have fun. The world is in turmoil, but if you keep on watching the comedy that we're doing, we're assuring you that you're going to have some fun. We can make each other laugh, enjoy, and get away with murder. Get away with murder. Can you still drive?
Oh, God.
We're in a hurry. Keep on watching everything fun at MikeMarino.net. Nice big shout out to my producer Tatiana Blueshell for doing a great job with making this podcast, Mike Marino, live from my mother's basement. A huge success. And thank you all my sponsors. Keep those cards and letters coming. Listen, we got to get going. I end my podcast all the time by saying the same thing. Don't take no shit from nobody. Ready? No, we're going to say it.
Oh, all right.
Ready? Don't take no shit from nobody. Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying watching my podcast live from my mother's basement. We're having a lot of fun, and I'm going to have a lot of great guests on the show in the future. So if you like it, hit like. You could also leave a comment. You could subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch other funny videos. And you could also listen to my podcast on your favorite podcast app like Spotify and iTunes.